Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, your weekly dose of One Piece straight from the Grand Line.
This week, we're covering Chapter 164, I Love My Country.
And what a title. Oda gives us this incredibly pure story about a young boy's fierce loyalty, about him literally taking a knife for his friend, for the future of his kingdom. And then in the final moments, he shows us that same boy is now the man leading an army to burn it all down. It's the kind of title that feels heartwarming for 90% of the chapter, and then that last 10% turns it into an ice pick to the heart.
It's a masterful twist. It reframes the entire Alabasta conflict from a simple case of good versus evil into something much more tragic. The title doesn't refer to one person, but to at least two, both acting on the same principle but from opposite ends of a conflict engineered by a third party.
Exactly. It's not about good guys and bad guys anymore. It's about two good people who are being forced to fight each other. It's the kind of storytelling that makes you want to go back and reread everything. If you want to be here as we connect all those dots from the past to the present, make sure you're subscribed. That way you won't miss the moment it all comes crashing together.
Let's get into it. The flashback is reaching its climax.
Right, so we pick back up with the San clan, Koza's crew of kids, going head-to-head with these kidnapper goons. And they are not messing around. They're putting up a real fight to protect Vivi. It's got big Usopp Pirates energy, you know? A group of kids hopelessly outmatched, but they're standing their ground for their friend and their town, or in this case, their princess.
It's a testament to the strength of community in Alabasta. Even as children, they've formed their own social structure with a leader they respect. They have a territory and a code. When an outside threat appears, their first instinct is to band together and protect their own. These aren't just random kids playing. They are a microcosm of the Alabastan society Crocodile is trying to tear apart.
Yeah, and Koza is totally their captain. You see them fighting with sticks and rocks, and they're actually coordinated. They're a real crew. They even managed to trap one of the guys. It's a legitimate strategy. But they're still kids. They've got the spirit, but they don't have the strength to back it up just yet.
It's impressive, but they are still just children. The scene quickly turns when Igaram arrives. He doesn't find a victory. He finds the entire San clan beaten and injured, scattered in the sand.
Oda draws this one panel, a wide shot of the clearing, and it's devastating. Little bodies everywhere, not moving. For a moment, you think the worst has happened.
The desperation in his voice when he asks what happened, you feel that. He's not just a captain of the guard, he's a protector. He failed to stop the kidnapping, and now these kids who tried to help are hurt. That's a heavy burden. Think about it from his perspective. His one job, his sacred duty, is to protect the royal family, especially the heir. He failed, and his failure had a ripple effect that got innocent children hurt. That's a nightmare.
Igaram is a man defined by his loyalty. We've seen him willing to disguise himself as Vivi, to act as a decoy, to lay down his life without a second thought. Here, we see the cost of that loyalty when things go wrong. It's not just his own life on the line, but the lives of everyone in the kingdom he's sworn to protect, starting with its children.
And then one of the kids, barely conscious, tells him the worst of it. Vivi managed to run away towards the ruins, but the main goon is chasing her. And then he adds a detail that just sends a chill down your spine.
Koza went after them, alone. Just a kid with a stick chasing a grown man with a knife who has a princess as a hostage. Your heart just sinks.
He's alone against an armed adult. Igaram's face in that moment is pure panic. He knows what that means. He knows a kid's courage is no match for a criminal's desperate blade.
This is where it gets really good. The head bandit corners Vivi in these crumbling ruins. Oda sets the scene perfectly. The lighting is dark, the pillars are broken. It feels like a tomb. He's got this disgusting, predatory look on his face, talking about his payday. Vivi is terrified. She's backed against a wall. It's a genuinely scary moment. This isn't a cartoony villain. This is a predator.
The setting is significant. They are in the ruins of the Old Kingdom, a place of history and forgotten glory. The fight for the future of Alabasta is literally taking place on top of its past. It adds a layer of symbolic weight to the confrontation. This is a pivotal moment in the country's history, whether they know it or not.
And Koza appears, out of the shadows, like a total hero. A kid with some kind of club standing between Vivi and this grown man with a knife. The size difference is ridiculous. The bandit towers over him, but Koza doesn't seem to notice.
And then he says that line, a line that defines his entire character, both in this moment and in the future.
The sheer guts on this kid. He doesn't even hesitate. He just looks at the guy and says, I am her opponent. That's not a kid trying to be brave. That's a declaration. It's a statement of fact in his mind. He sees himself as Vivi's equal, as her equal protector. He's not saying, I'll fight you. He's saying, this is my place. This is my role. It's an insane level of confidence and responsibility for a child.
It's the foundation of his character. He's always been a leader. He's always been the one to stand up first. That line, I am her opponent, is fascinating. It's not possessive, like she's mine to protect. It implies a relationship of equals, a friendly rivalry that has now been elevated to a life and death situation. He's taking on her burden as if it were his own, a theme that will become tragically twisted in the present day.
And he doesn't just stand up to him, he actually lands a solid blow. It's a David and Goliath moment. He's faster, he's smarter, and he gets a solid hit in that sends the bandit flying. The sound effect is just this huge bam and the guy is on the ground. For a second you think, he actually did it. This kid just won. You're cheering for him.
But Oda never makes it that easy. Victory in One Piece, especially for those who aren't the main characters, is rarely clean. The bandit gets back up, furious, and lunges. Koza is still just a child. He has the heart and the strategy of a warrior, but he doesn't have the experience or the hardened body. He wins the fight, but he can't avoid the consequences.
The knife. God, that panel is rough. The guy gets him right across the face. It's brutal. Oda doesn't shy away from it. There's a sharp zash sound effect. The line of the cut is clear and you see the shock on Koza's face. But even after taking that hit, a hit that would drop most people, his only thought is for Vivi. He just turns to her, blood starting to pour, and asks if she's okay.
That's the moment he's scarred. It's not just a cool design for his adult self, a way to make him look tough. It's a physical mark of his loyalty. He bled to protect the future queen of Alabasta. Every time he looks in a mirror for the rest of his life, he will see a reminder of this day, of his promise and his pain. It's a brand of his own making.
And he didn't even flinch. Not really. He took a wound that would have made most grown men scream, and his first instinct was to check on his friend. That's a straw hat level of loyalty right there. That's something Luffy or Zoro would do. Take a mortal wound and then ask, is everyone else all right? That right there tells you Koza is not a villain. He's cut from the same cloth as our heroes.
Okay, but think about what this means for the present. The man leading the rebellion is the one who carries a permanent scar from defending the royal family. That is such a potent, tragic piece of irony. The very mark of his devotion to the crown is now the face of the movement to tear it down. Crocodile's plan is so insidious that it has turned a symbol of loyalty into a symbol of sedition.
Before we can even process that, the rest of the bandits show up, ready to finish the job. They've got Koza and Vivi cornered. It looks like it's all over. But then boom, King Cobra and Igaram arrive with a royal guard, and they are not playing.
And Cobra isn't just standing back. He's right there on the front line. It's a great reminder that he's not just a diplomat in a fancy coat. He's a warrior king from a long line of them. This is the Nefertari family legacy. They don't just rule from a throne. They fight for their people on the battlefield. It's why the citizens of Alabasta love them so deeply.
He's a dad, bro. Forget the king part for a second. His daughter was in danger. You see that look on his face, and it's pure righteous anger. The bandits don't stand a chance. It's a complete shutdown. They go from terrifying threats to pathetic cowards in seconds. Seeing Cobra in action like this really sells you on what a good and strong leader he is, which makes what Crocodile does to his reputation even more disgusting.
It resolves the immediate danger, but the emotional core of the chapter happens next. The fighting is over, but the fallout is just beginning.
Yeah, we cut to the hospital. Koza's got this huge bandage over his eye, covering half his face. Vivi's there by his bedside, and she's just silent. You can tell she feels responsible, even though it wasn't her fault. There's this unspoken weight between them now. Their friendship was just sealed in blood.
It's a quiet, somber scene. This is a turning point in their lives. They can no longer go back to being simple childhood friends. A line has been crossed. He is now the boy who was scarred for her, and she is the princess he bled for. This incident creates an invisible, unbreakable bond between them, a bond that makes their future opposition all the more painful to witness.
But then the next day, Koza's up and talking. He's already recovering, tough as nails. He's telling Vivi that he and Toto are leaving the capital.
And it doesn't seem to be because of the incident. It feels like this was already in the works, but now it carries so much more weight. They're moving to an area that's been suffering from a drought.
They're going out into the desert to start a new town called Yuba. And his reasoning is so pure, so noble. He says Alabasta is a great city, but not everyone can live there. Some places are struggling. They're not running away from a problem. They're running towards one to fix it. They're going to build a new place for people, an oasis in the struggling parts of the kingdom.
This is the birth of Yuba. It starts as a symbol of hope, a new frontier for Alabasta, founded by two of its most dedicated citizens, Toto, who has the wisdom and respect of his peers, and Koza, who has the fire and leadership of the next generation. It's a perfect encapsulation of the Alabastan spirit. When faced with hardship, they don't just endure, they build.
The farewell between him and Vivi is just heartbreaking. They're just kids, but they're saying goodbye like adults. There's this weight to it. It's like this isn't just a see you later, this is a pact. They're both committing their lives to the service of their country, just on different paths.
He's leaving to build the kingdom from the ground up, literally digging in the sand. She's staying to lead it from the top down, learning the politics and responsibilities of the crown. They're two sides of the same project, a better Alabasta. It's beautifully symmetrical. Both are driven by an intense love for their country, and in this moment, they are perfectly aligned in their goals.
And for a moment, that's where the flashback leaves us, on this hopeful but sad note. Two friends parting ways, both dedicated to the same goal. You feel like, man, these two are going to make Alabasta an amazing place one day. It's the perfect, idealistic ending to a coming-of-age story. And then Oda brings us back to the present.
And it's like a punch to the gut. No, it's worse. It's like a slow, deliberate twist of a knife that's already there. We're in the rebel army's camp. The art style shifts. The lines are harsher. The shadows are deeper. They're talking about the final battle, a full-scale invasion of Alabasta to take the country by force.
The mood is tense, desperate. These aren't soldiers, they're citizens who have been pushed to the absolute limit. Farmers, merchants, people whose homes and livelihoods have been destroyed by the drought. We see their faces, and they're filled with a mixture of anger and sorrow. They don't want to be doing this, but they feel they have no other choice.
And they all turn to their leader for the final word. The camera pans up. We see his boots in the sand. We see his clothes. Then we see the side of his face. And you see the bandage is gone, but the scar is there. It's him. It's Koza. My jaw was on the floor, man. I just stared at the page for a solid minute.
After everything we just saw, after watching him bleed for Vivi, for the kingdom, he's the one leading the charge to overthrow it? The boy who promised to support the future princess is now the man determined to storm her castle. It's a perfect, gut-wrenching reveal.
It just completely recontextualizes everything. He's not some random angry guy. He's not a villain. He's the same kid who stood up to those bandits. He's doing this because in his mind, it's the only way to save the country he loves. He's trying to protect people, just like he did all those years ago. The target of his protection has just shifted from the princess to the populace.
The chapter title, I Love My Country, applies to both of them. Vivi is trying to save it by exposing Crocodile and stopping the war. Koza is trying to save it by removing the government he believes has failed its people. They are both patriots. They are both heroes of their own stories. And Crocodile has masterfully turned them into mortal enemies.
They're on a collision course, and neither of them is wrong, not really. From Koza's perspective, the king is hoarding the rain and letting the country die. From Vivi's perspective, the rebels are being manipulated into destroying the kingdom. They've just been fed two different sets of lies by Crocodile. That's what makes it a tragedy. It's not about who wins, it's about how much they're going to destroy before they realize they're on the same side.
It also raises the terrifying question of what happened in Yuba. That town, founded on so much hope, became the heart of the rebellion. What could have been so bad that it turned Toto and Koza against the king they respected? What happened to turn that symbol of hope into ground zero for a civil war?
That's the mystery, isn't it? Something went terribly, terribly wrong in the desert. We saw Yuba when Luffy passed through. It was a ghost town buried in sand with only Old Man Toto left digging endlessly. He went from a hopeful pioneer to a man obsessed with a futile task. That hope was murdered, and Crocodile was almost certainly behind it. This reveal, this is peak One Piece storytelling, building up a character's heroic past just to twist the knife with their tragic present. That is just superb writing.
It guarantees that when Luffy and Vivi finally confront the rebellion, it won't be a simple fight. Luffy can't just punch the problem away. The bad guy in this fight is a good man who has been deceived and broken. How do you fight that? How do you punch a lie? It will be an emotional and ideological battle.
Absolutely. Let us know in the comments who you're siding with right now. Is Koza justified, or has he been led down the wrong path? There's a real debate to be had there. If you didn't know about Crocodile, his actions would be completely understandable.
All right, let's look ahead. What do you think comes next?
Okay, prediction 1. Next chapter, we get the other side of the coin. We're going to see a glimpse of what happened to Koza and Yuba after he left Alubarna. Not a full flashback, but just enough to show us the breaking point. Oda just revealed Koza is the leader. Now he has to show us why. I'm betting we'll see the dance powder incident from the perspective of the citizens of Yuba, seeing the king's ships carrying the stuff and drawing the wrong but logical conclusion. The specific incident that made him decide rebellion was the only answer.
So you think we'll see the catalyst for his change? I could see that. It would further cement the tragedy by showing the audience exactly how he was manipulated, making his stance both sympathetic and unequivocally wrong.
Yeah, and prediction 2, the Straw Hats' route to Rain Base, where Crocodile is going to take them right through the Rebel Army staging ground. I don't think they'll fight, but I think Luffy and Koza are going to meet before Luffy knows who he is. Maybe Luffy wanders off looking for food and stumbles right into the rebel leader. They'll have some kind of interaction, maybe a brief moment of shared ideals or a misunderstanding that sets up their future dynamic. Oda loves those chance encounters.
A chance encounter. That's interesting. For my first prediction, I think we'll cut away from the rebels and see Crocodile's reaction to this. He's been moving his pieces across the board, and the rebellion making its final move is a major part of his plan. I predict we'll see him with Daz Bones, Mr. One, outlining the final stage of Operation Utopia. He'll be sitting in his casino in Rain Base, looking down on the world like a god, explaining how the rebellion and the Royal Army will wipe each other out, leaving a power vacuum for him to fill.
Seeing the villain's perspective, the puppet master gloating as their puppets dance. I like that. It would really twist the knife after the emotional weight of the Koza reveal. What's your second?
My second prediction is that Vivi, upon learning that the rebels are marching on the capital, which she will inevitably will decide she can't wait for the Straw Hats. We've seen her try to handle things herself before. Her first instinct will be to find Koza herself and try to talk him down. She knows him. She believes their bond is strong enough to overcome this. I think the next chapter will end with her making a reckless decision to leave the group and confront him directly.
Oh man, that would be so Vivi, trying to carry the entire weight of the country on her own shoulders again. That's her biggest strength and her biggest flaw. She believes in her people so much, she thinks she can stop a war with just words and a shared memory. I could totally see that happening.
It would put her in immense danger, right between Crocodile's agents who would love to capture her, and a furious rebel army that now sees her as the face of their oppression. She wouldn't be seen as Vivi, their childhood friend. She'd be seen as Princess Nefertari, the daughter of the man they hate.
A princess walking into the heart of the storm. Classic. It would be a nightmare for the Straw Hats trying to chase her down before she gets herself killed. All right, those are our predictions. A lot of heavy stuff on the horizon.
We'll see how right we are next week. Join us then as we continue our journey through Alabasta.
Until then, stay super.